Good morning, Wabash. Speaking today at Pioneer Chapel will be Ethan Stonis, Jack Heldt, Cooper Smith, and Mason Allen with their talk titled Senior Chapel Talk. Ethan is a native of Naperville, Illinois, more famously known as In Block. He has spent his last 4 years as a brother of Phi Kappa Psi and a member of the Wabash lacrosse team, where he has served as a captain for the last 3 years. In addition to his house involvement, Ethan has participated in many clubs and activities around campus, including most recently the Wamadon Music Ensemble and the Pep Band. Following graduation, Ethan will be returning home to work at Insight Global in Chicago and is excited to spend much of his time and money watching the local sports teams underperform. Jack is graduating Wabash as a biology and rhetoric double major. At Wabash, he participated in the Sphinx Club, Senior Council, and the wrestling team. In the Sphinx Club, he spent the last year as the vice president. And as a wrestler, Heldt was a two-time national finalist, the 2023 D3 heavyweight national champ, D3 wrestling's most dominant wrestler, and Wabash's first ever Elite 90 winner. Heldt also served as an RA and an enrollment ambassador during his time here. Following graduation, he is getting married to his fiancée Sarah and moving to Indy. Cooper Smith is a senior majoring in political science and history, earning distinction on both in comps. On campus, he currently serves as the editor-in-chief of The Bachelor, a writing fellow in the Writing Center, and a tenor in the Glee Club. He earned a Truman Scholarship for his public service work with the Innocence Project of Florida and the Legal Aid Society in Louisville. After graduation, Cooper will spend 2 years in the United Kingdom studying legal history and comparative constitutionalism on a Marshall Scholarship. After, he will return to the U.S. to attend Yale Law School. And finally, we have Mason Allen. Mason is a German major and business minor from that town down south. While at Wabash, he was glad to take part in the CIBE, be a brother of Teak, serve as IFC president, and be a member of the best Rhine class that Wabash has ever seen. Hurts to say. After graduation, he'll be moving to Arkansas to work for Nucor Steel. A fun fact about Mason is that he enjoys the occasional adult libation and conversation with his friends around campus, emphasis on occasional. Let's give it up for the seniors.
I'm really gonna miss being seen as a student, not a money sign here in 3 weeks. It's a joke, by the way. Anyways, good morning, Wabash. Before I jump into my talk, I wanted to start by thanking the club for nominating me to do this. It wasn't that long ago that I was sitting in these pews with a lot less hair on my head, and I mean like none. The Phi Psi's know. And yeah, I always thought it would be so cool to be up here giving a speech, so I appreciate it. Throughout the last 4 years, I've kind of been a man of many faces here at Wabash. Some of you may know me from the lacrosse field as the guy who's always smacking kids upside the head with his stick or finding ways to lay a lethal body check on someone. Others may know me from the classroom, especially my English classes, as the try-hard student that kind of takes his participation grade way past where it needs to be. Or perhaps you came over to Phi Psi during my sophomore year and you heard me playing the drum set in the basement. Or more recently, I've decided that the drum set wasn't loud enough, so I've moved to the electric guitar. And even with an adjustable volume, I've decided to still play it on full blast. Regardless, I like to think that I made the most of my 4 years here at Wabash. On paper, at least, I've accomplished a lot. By the time the final horn sounds in my final lacrosse game here in a couple days, I will have finished as a 3-year captain, 3-time NCAC Player of the Week, an academic honor roll recipient, and this year's NCAC Scholar Athlete Award recipient. Thank you. In the stat book, I will conclude my time as 4th in career all-time points, and barring my teammate Quinn Fitzgerald from popping off on Saturday, 1st in most points and goals scored in a season, and the season's team leader in points and goals. And my success on the lacrosse field has definitely followed me into the classroom as well, where I will be graduating as an 8-semester Dean's List student, and after my initiation in a couple weeks here, I'll be a member of the Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society. Now I know what you're thinking. This kid thinks he's better than everyone because he got good grades and he plays lacrosse well, which is fine, but just so you guys know, I had to look all that up. And while I did have tremendous success both on and off the field, it's not the reason why I'm bringing all that up. In fact, I'm here to tell you to forget about the stats and the GPA and the honors, which I know as Wabash students, it's pretty hard to do. Because in my opinion, numbers are really an indicator of partial success, not the full picture. You see, I could stand up here and talk about how Wabash was so great for me and how yada, yada, yada was, I accomplished this and that. But I think that's a bit overplayed, and honestly, our experiences are all going to be different here. But I wanted to talk about why when you leave this place, like us seniors are about to do, why you're going to leave a legacy behind you, and why that legacy is much bigger than what you accomplished just on the field and in the classroom, but also why it matters. So on the lacrosse team, we often throw around the word legacy. It's the idea of leaving a place better than you once found it, that at some point the time will come for you to move on, and you will only continue to exist through the memories and impact that you've had on others. And our locker room legacy is the driving force of our conduct, especially as a newer program trying to build a great culture. We often ask ourselves, what will this team's legacy be? What are we doing now to ensure the success of the lacrosse teams that precede us? How will we be remembered? And it's kind of an inspiring way to continue to push ourselves to truly never be satisfied with our accomplishments. And it's a fight to place ourselves in the history books as the team that did this or that. This year, our legacy will be that we are the most winningest lacrosse program in Wabash lacrosse history. 8 years, and a record that will most likely be broken next year and the year after that, and so on and so forth. And like our team, although I'm in the record books now, better players will come to play here, and they'll have the opportunities I didn't get, and with that, my name will probably be erased from the Wabash lacrosse history as well. So in 20 years, people aren't going to remember the 8-win Wabash lacrosse program and the captain of that team. They're going to remember the conference champions and the team that made a run at a national title. And so if you're basing success off of the stat book, then our legacies will simply fade. But like I said before, legacy isn't just measured off the contents of a trophy case, because stats often only tell part of the story. In fact, it's often crafted in moments of failure and employed in times of success. A couple weeks ago, I was sitting next to my younger brother, a freshman here on the lacrosse team. We were staring out over a garbage dump. Sorry, that was meant to say DePauw's campus. Autocorrect, am I right? So after, we had just taken a pretty tough loss against DePauw, and I was visibly upset because it was my last opportunity to beat the team, something that the lacrosse program here has never done. And I wanted so badly for our team's legacy to be the first ones to beat DePauw in program history, especially in my last season. And I told the team that if we did it, it would probably be the best moment of my college experience. Unfortunately, we fell short, and we didn't make history. And with that, my opportunity to beat DePauw was also gone. Although I may or may not have gotten in a fight with a player, which I know isn't encouraged, but I mean, come on now, I've been waiting 4 years to do that. So I was sitting there with my brother, and he knew I was upset. He turned to me and apologized. I told him it was okay, and that I knew next year's team would win. And he looked back to me and he said he knew that they would win next year, but it wasn't fair to the seniors on the team this year that we couldn't pull out a W. And I turned to him and said, building a program isn't fair to the ones who do it, and it's true, it sucks pretty bad. We put in a lot of extra work. We take tough losses just so that people down the line can reap the reward. And there's really no glory in this extra work and sometimes the brutal losses we take. However, I think even in our failures, there's always a silver lining. For example, I believe the freshmen on the team needed to see how hard us seniors took that loss against DePauw, how hard we fought to win, so that they know in their future losing wasn't an option, so that the next year they could win for the ones that didn't. Even though we lost, our legacy hopefully set this precedent. I would say that this embodies the legacy that I and the other seniors who are both here have sought to leave for the young guys on our team this year. That every game or practice, no matter the odds or the score, no matter if we were banged up, that we left it all on the field. Because it's easy to take the experience for granted, especially when the end is a lot closer than it seems. This legacy will hopefully win our program's games next year and the year after that, and eventually us seniors can claim that we own a piece of the success of the team that brings home its first trophy. And that's another part of legacy. Yeah, it's unmeasurable, but eventually when someone succeeds at the hands of your work and the numbers do reflect this, you know you own a stake in that success. It's infectious in this sense. If your impact is powerful enough, it has the potential to lead to the success of many people. Take, for example, my fellow teammates and seniors, A.J. Miller and Connor Cochran, who have probably subconsciously encouraged me to keep with the lacrosse program even after COVID took a season from us and we had a coaching change. Their legacy and impact have created a mindset for me here that I've passed on to not only the freshmen on the team, but other people here at Wabash, that no matter how hard it gets, which it does here at Wabash, that you have the support of those around you to keep you chugging along. My guess is that they are just embodying the legacy of some little giants who set this precedent at the college years ago. It is when you impact one person and that person affects another and so on and so forth, that you eventually realize you may positively impact the life of someone at Wabash years after that you were gone. If your legacy is strong enough, there's no way of telling the distances it may travel, the people it may affect, and the success that it may foster. This is why I think it's important to use your 4 years here caring about what you can accomplish on paper, but caring more about the ways that you can leave a lasting legacy in the people and places around you. You don't have to be wealthy or smart or athletic to do this. If you can find a way to leave an impact, you found a way to leave a legacy. Remember that your legacy here will be remembered by your actions, not your results. And it doesn't have to be on the sporting field. You can leave a legacy in the classroom, in your fraternity house, in your workplace, like the glorious Miss Julia Phipps. I promised I'd give her a shout out, so Julia, love you. Everyone go get candy from Julia. And it doesn't also need to be a big, glorious moment. Like I said, it sometimes only takes you impacting one person to make a difference in the lives of many. So I think it's important to remember here at Wabash, you have the opportunity not to only carry someone's legacy, but to create your own. At the end of the day, every person in this room is a leader in a very tight-knit community, capable of leaving an impact on this campus. It doesn't matter if you're a freshman, a senior, a student, or a professor. It's like the famous Babe Ruth quote from The Sandlot: "Heroes get remembered, but legends never die." You will be remembered by your accomplishments, but survived by your legacy. To my fellow seniors, congrats, fellas, we got called up to the show. Time to party until reality sets in. Thank you.
Good morning, Wabash. I want to first thank my brothers in the Sphinx Club for allowing me to speak in front of all of you today. It truly means the world to me that you guys chose me for this role. It took me a long time to decide what I wanted to talk about today. There was so much I've experienced in the past 4 years, it was hard to choose. I could share stories about my junior year Monon Bell game, where we came back from a 21-0 deficit, various fight nights across campus, darties at Sig Chi, yelling at our opponents on the hill in the outfield, or countless hours spent in the wrestling room. Coincidentally, at a lot of these fun events, my friend Matt Melcher was there too. Usually without a shirt on, sometimes without pants on either. While so much of college is focused around the classroom, I believe that the value in college comes outside of class. The most important things I've learned here weren't in biology or rhetoric, but during the in-between, everyday moments of Wabash. This leads me to talk about a couple lessons I've learned outside of the classroom here. The first one is to set goals to chase, but don't obsess over them. As Miley Cyrus sings in her song The Climb, ain't about how fast I get there, ain't about what's waiting on the other side, it's the climb. I think these are wise words to live by. There are a few things I realized after reaching my goal of becoming a national champion. Setting goals is pivotal for personal growth. They give us something to work towards and are a daily reminder of why we do the things that we do. I wrote the words national champion on my mirror at home, so over the summers, I would see those words every single day as a reminder of what I wanted. After finally achieving this feat, I realized there was so much more to my goal than actually reaching it. Goals aren't there for you to reach them, they're there for you to chase. It's not about what's waiting on the other side, it's the climb. Secondly, while chasing goals is important, don't let your goals consume you. Life is about balance, and if you let that one thing get in the way of your rest of your life, you'll miss out on the dozens of more important moments. So sure, it's cool to now say that I'm a national champion. I have a pretty neat wooden trophy to prove it, but that's it. I don't want that goal to define me. I'm much prouder to say that I'm a son, a fiance, a teammate, and a friend to many. So find balance for the important things in life. Speaking of important things, that leads me to my next point. Never turn down a cold beer, especially one out of the Monon Bell. It's hard not to remember that glorious Saturday in the fall of 2021 when Liam Thompson and company came back from the 21-0 deficit to defeat the DePaul Tigers and win back the Monon Bell. That night, the Bell went on a tour around campus at the various houses, and swarms of people followed it wherever it went. The opportunity presented itself to me to be able to drink from the Bell, and I was faced with a decision. Either stick to the wrestling team policy of no drinking in season, or take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to drink an ice-cold beer from the magnificent chalice that is the Monon Bell. Sorry, Coach, but I think you can guess which one I ended up choosing. It was at this moment that I realized it is important never to turn down a cold beer, especially one from the Monon Bell. Some of the most meaningful conversations I've had at Wabash have occurred over a cold beer. So if someone offers you one, take it, sit down, and get to know the guy. Be interested in them. The third lesson I've learned at Wabash is that the fear of failure will always hold you back. In wrestling, the guy who wins the match is usually the one who is attacking. For those who watched my national finals match, you may recall that within a minute of the match, I shot in and my opponent threw me onto my back and almost pinned me. Sure, I freaked out a little bit in the moment, and I probably made my coach shit his pants. But I knew I was going to be fine. Wabash always fights, after all. I went in the match knowing this guy was going to do that. And I didn't let the fear of getting thrown to my back stop me from getting to my attacks and wrestling how I wanted. In the end, it worked out in my favor. The same goes for life, too. Life is going to throw you on your back. It's inevitable. But you shouldn't let the fear of that stop you from attacking. Because if you never attack in the first place, then you're never going to score. Fear of failure will always hold you back. The next lesson is that confidence can get you into and out of any situation. Confidence, for example, can get you into Sparks at 2 a.m. when you're hungry for some cookies and ice cream after a few drinks. Confidence can also get you out of trouble when security catches you and the rest of your friends leave you in the dust as they sprint across the mall. While this may sound like just a silly 2 a.m. story, it has merits to it. I have found that confidence can take you a long way in life, outside of avoiding trouble for breaking into Sparks to steal a few cookies. People respect a man with confidence. Look someone in the eye when they're talking to you. Give firm handshakes. Don't stand closed off, but be open and inviting to others. All of these things will take you a long way in gaining respect and fostering relationships with people. I've found that confidence can open doors of possibility with internships, interviews, and especially utilizing our alumni network. To that point, the next lesson is be a yes man and take risks. My favorite Bible verse is Matthew 6:34. It reads, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." For me, the way I interpret this verse is to just live in the moment and don't get so caught up about the future. The best decision I've ever made at Wabash was going out for the Sphinx Club. As a sophomore G'd, who had spent most of his time cooped up in his room from COVID, playing Warzone all day, I hardly knew anyone on campus. It was a very daunting task for me to go through Rhineship, not having experienced anything like it before. Nonetheless, I knew it was something I wanted, so I took the risk and said yes. In a matter of weeks, I tripled the amount of people I knew on campus and gained everlasting relationships. One of my Ryan brothers is actually going to be a groomsman in my wedding. So take risks and say yes to things. Go out for the Sphinx Club. Jeej, join a fraternity. Instead of hyper-focusing on school, go have a bonfire, smoke a cigar with your buddies. I'm a big fan of bonfires, by the way. You never know what relationships may come of it. Be a yes man and take risks. Be comfortable with the uncomfortable. One of my favorite movie series of all time is Kung Fu Panda. Kung Fu Panda 4 is coming out March 2024. For those who are curious, I'll be going to the premiere if you want to come with me. In the first movie, Master Shifu was lecturing Po, and he said, "If you only do what you can do, you will never be more than what you are now." It's a lot of wisdom for a kid's movie. If you only do what you can do, you will never be more than what you are now. One of the most important things in the sport of wrestling has taught me was how to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. You can learn a lot by pushing yourself to your breaking point week after week. Each time you push yourself to your breaking point, the next time you're going to be able to go further. I can't count the number of days where I left that wrestling room crying, puking, bleeding, sometimes all three. But I know that each time I broke, it made it harder for me to break the next time. When you push your body on the daily, you're not only strengthening your muscles, but you're also strengthening your mind. Being a strong-minded person can go a long way in life when life gets really freaking hard. And it can get really freaking hard. This leads me to my last point. Just give more hugs. Yes, I think it's important to be a strong-minded person, push through hard times, but sometimes it can be too hard to do it on our own. Be strong-minded, but also recognize when you have hit your breaking point and lean on others. A friend of mine who I look up to greatly is sophomore Matt Lepper. Matt is one of the best people I know at giving hugs. For those of you that know him, know that. He always makes my day with his hugs. Hugs are integral to human nature. Virginia Satir, a world-renowned family therapist, is famous for saying, "We need 4 hugs a day for survival, 8 hugs a day for maintenance, and 12 hugs a day for growth." Raise your hand if you can remember the last time you got 4 hugs in a day. How about 8? 12? I'm not saying give a little bro pat and be done with it. Get in there. Yeah. Hug for about, yeah. Hug for about 20 to 30 seconds. As a biology guy, that's the amount of time that's needed to release oxytocin, which is, it's the happy hormone, it's the love hormone. You know, let's get interactive real quick. Everyone stand up, stand up. Give the guy next to you a hug. I'll give it a couple seconds. Give more hugs. The moral of the story here is just care for each other, guys. We all have a breaking point. Some of us may reach it sooner than others. So be a man, know when it's time to ask for help, and it's okay not to be okay. We're a brotherhood after all. These are just a few things that I've learned at Wabash outside of the classroom. And I hope these words stuck with you today. I'm very thankful for all the opportunities I've received here. Wabash is not just 4 years. Wabash is for life. And I'm glad to say that everyone in this chapel will be my brothers for life. Thank you. Wabash always fights.
Good morning, Wabash. If you've been reading The Bachelor regularly this year, I can guarantee you at least one thing. You've very much disagreed with at least one thing we ran. It may have been a cartoon, an opinion, or a news article. It may have moved you to write a thoughtful op-ed or a fiery email to me. Good. That means we've done our part, and you have too. My time at the helm of The Bachelor has given me the opportunity to share the stories and lives of Wabash students, alumni, and faculty. We've covered how Wabash leaders of all ages serve in the world, from Indianapolis to Ukraine. But it's also demonstrated clearly the importance of learning to engage thoughtfully with ideas that we disagree with, sometimes vehemently. At The Bachelor and throughout my 4 years at Wabash, I found meaning, lessons, and excitement in this often heated exchange. It seems to be a feature of the Wabash ethos. In many ways, I see this place as a training ground for thoughtful young men to put this understanding of ideological exchange and pluralism into practice. And I think it may be part of the key to solving the difficult questions facing our world. As Wabash men, we all share at least one unique school-specific struggle, explaining what in the world this place is. I always enjoy seeing which Wabash details surprise people the most. Of course, we're one of 3 non-religious 4-year men's colleges in the country. That, of course, shocks almost everyone. But there's plenty more for shock value. We have, of course, the Gentleman's Rule, the Sphinx Club, and vibrant Greek life, just to name a few more shocking details. But one of the things that surprises newcomers is the all-access, knock-down, drag-out email wars. Whether hammock club or election night, our ability to send any message at a moment's notice to the entire student body downright shocks people. Allow me just a moment to explain the impossible. I think, in many forms, our student email exchanges, and even some all-student email wars, are a good thing for our college and for our development as Wabash men and emerging global citizens. Within an all-student email, no matter how serious or ridiculous, lies an awesome power, the power to help steer campus discourse and debate. This power is wild if you think about it for a second. I see it as one of the ways that Wabash is a decentralized, egalitarian place where endlessly curious people can widen their intellectual horizons and mature as thinkers, leaders, and change makers. So when I can't sleep because my phone is constantly buzzing with the latest debates, memes, or take it to the classifieds, I find some solace in Wabash men engaging in debate with each other. Admittedly, sometimes I only think that after I've rolled my eyes a little bit. But of course, the ways that Wabash trains its loyal sons as participants in this global exchange is not limited only to email practice. At least I sure hope not. The Bachelor represents another strong example, and yes, I have to say that. We are an independent student newspaper, one that at its best aims to capture the intellectual and cultural debates around campus. Wabash is truly an exciting, energetic place, one where people actively speak their minds on divisive issues. For our staff, that requires journalistic independence and integrity. It requires judgment calls which readers may certainly disagree with, sometimes quite strongly. We always welcome fruitful discussion about this use of judgment. We do not pretend to know some perfect, objective form of truth, however much we strive to support every single one of our articles with the strongest evidence available. To everyone who has contributed to the paper this year, no matter how critical, I thank you. Thank you for joining the flow of ideas and for helping to keep this campus intellectually alive. My time at the helm of The Bachelor this year has stretched my ability to follow these pluralistic ideals I claim to profess. Somewhere along a road of critical op-eds and angry emails, I became more comfortable sitting alongside ideas with which I disagree, focusing on how to respond to the ideas and arguments, not to the person. Far from perfect, I cannot help but feel that this year's duties and a truly incredible staff of writers, brothers, and advisors have helped me move closer towards the man and global citizen that I hope to become. But why exactly does this matter? I am a recovering high school debater, but this isn't out of some juvenile love of the game of debate. It also isn't merely just trying to sell more papers. As of last night, my turn laying out the student voice of Wabash has come to an end. This matters because it speaks to our ability to fight the world's fight, our ability to serve as leaders and change makers. When our state, nation, and globe face rising polarization, especially over seemingly insolvable crises, we have to learn how to engage with ideas we despise. We cannot possibly make gains on poverty, climate change, or security without learning first how to speak to one another, not just to win debates, but to have a fruitful discussion. We have to see the humanity in our opponents. None of this, however, is a call for merely trite, pleasant, so-called civil interaction with people and rhetoric that targets our very identities and dignity. I certainly hope that this idea is more than yet another cry of can't we just all get along? Rather, what this is a call for us, Wabash men and global citizens, to put in the work, and it certainly is work. We have to become comfortable confronting ideas we disagree with in a productive manner, and we have to become comfortable sifting through the times that we can afford to separate the disagreeable idea from the speaker, and the times that the hateful rhetoric so cuts against our very core and self-worth that we need not imagine the hateful speech on the same plane for this level of productive discussion. And that takes practice. This is why I focus so much on the ways that Wabash equips us to train these difficult skills. Sure, I could perhaps expectedly go through our tall mission statement. Each tenet certainly intersects with this theme. But I think I return once more to the amazing stories that I've been fortunate enough to share with the Wabash community, the ones of the Wabash family making a difference throughout the globe. Whether a former Afghan ambassador, a humanitarian smuggler in Ukraine, or the countless other stories, Wabash men are making a difference in the world. We can and we will make a difference too. And in our increasingly polarized and insolvable world, we can only do so if we learn to engage thoughtfully and actively. It's a truism, but democracy is not a spectator sport. If we want to improve our world as Wabash men, we have to get off the sidelines, and Wabash prepares us to do just that. Thank you.
Good morning, Wabash. So I promise this won't be too long, but I had to make the font really big so it looks like a lot of pages to me. I'd just like to start off by thanking my family for supporting me and pushing me to do my absolute best, and a special shout out to my brother who went here before me, showing me what a special place Wabash is. I'd also like to thank my brothers in the Sphinx Club for choosing me to speak today, as well as my guys at Teak. All of you have been there for me when I've needed it. Thank you. When I was a senior in high school, Wabash used to have an admissions flyer with really bold letters on the front that read, "What kind of man do you want to be?" And this is before they put the period on the W too, so they were pretty serious about it. That's a huge question for a kid in high school to see, especially one that went to a high school that had a driver tractor to school day and had half the student body size of Wabash. But honestly, how the hell do you figure out what kind of person you want to be? You could go on to become a stellar athlete and earn All-American honors, or get your name on the record boards of Wabash. And I don't know about you guys, but I hate cardio more than anything and enjoy beer a little too much for that one. You could earn straight A's in all your courses and attend the nation's top graduate schools. And not that I don't love doing all my readings for class the next day or hitting every detail for class projects, but if Wabash basketball is playing that night, or I have a 5-leg parlay cooking up, those readings might have to wait a little bit. The Wabash men who go on to do those things are remarkable people, and I'm happy to call the ones I know friends. But those insane accomplishments were not part of my story in figuring out the man I wanted to be. I think you figure out what kind of man you want to be by experiencing everything that life has to offer. It's through all types of situations, both good ones and bad, that you learn who you are and what you believe in. So I'd like to share with you guys a few of the experiences I've had over the past 4 years that helped me figure out what kind of man I wanted to be. Sorry, Mom, for this one. I was fortunate enough to take a Wabash trip to Germany at the end of my junior year, and this opportunity was awesome, and I'm extremely grateful to have had the chance to go. It was my first trip to Europe, and I was with a bunch of Wabash guys for 2 weeks, so that was pretty sick. Part of our trip was spending time with university students in Germany practicing our language skills. At the time, I had 7 or so German courses under my belt, so I felt pretty decent enough about speaking the language and knowing what was coming out of my mouth. Myself, Cooper Jacks, Tim Insinger, and a few other guys were sitting out on the bank of the Spree River in Heidelberg speaking with our German counterpart. And as fellow college students, we were naturally talking about how we partied on the weekends and were curious about what German students did at the end of the week. And for some context with the language on this one, the German word "for" means before, and spiel means game. As I was putting the sentence together in my head, magst du Vorspiel, or do you pregame, I thought it made perfect sense. Come to realize that Vorspiel is not close at all to the word pregame, but actually means foreplay. Now, this was pretty embarrassing, and obviously I stuck to more familiar words after that moment. But the moral of the story is to take the chance and not be afraid to sound dumb and learn from the opportunity when you can. You can't get the most out of life if you always play it safe and don't take the risk of being wrong, especially when you're asking your female speaking partner if she does foreplay. Wabash College is one of the best places to take risks and help you up if you do end up failing. You can't go your entire life without failure, and it certainly helps you figure out the type of man you want to become. The next part about this is about the spring semester, when it gets really nice out and we all break out our golf clubs. Now, if you haven't had the distinct pleasure of playing a round of golf with me, it'll shock you to know that I'm absolutely terrible at the game. Now, I do enjoy occasional shots every now and then, but what I like more on the course are the conversations I have with friends. It's a relaxing feeling to be outside and get the chance to catch up with my buddies and talk about whatever we want to. Whether it's jobs or internships we have lined up for the summer, how their families are doing, or something that's been on their mind that they like to talk about. Those conversations show that you care and are taking an active role in being present in their lives. I think Wabash nurtures a unique environment that I think allows us to connect on a deeper level than any other institution. Being able to share the experience of an all-male school in the middle of nowhere for 4 years has definitely helped me understand the importance of caring for those around you and making that part of the man I want to be. My last part of the story that helped me figure out the kind of man I wanted to be happened about 3 or 4 weeks ago on a Friday after TGIF. Setting the stage for this one a little bit, myself, Jack Heldt, Cooper Jacks, John Gonzalez, Alex Volk, and Melch all walk into El Charro with one thing on our mind: margaritas. Now, flipping through the menu at El Charro, we see something new, the Super Jumbo Marg. And there was no price listed on this, and there were only a few flavor options, but we naturally all got the Super Jumbo Marg. And over the next couple of hours, we all sat in one another's company and exchanged stories and laughs as friends. Well, this just seems like guys goofing off and letting loose for a little bit. I think it's in moments like those where we can all learn something about ourselves. For me, times like those taught me you can't go through life alone. Having friends by your side through every part of your life will make it 10 times easier to get through and probably 20 times more memorable. Wabash has given me countless friends that have definitely made it easier to get through and without a doubt have made it a place I'll never forget. The type of man I want to be will be a good friend. With about 2 weeks until graduation, I started thinking about the kind of man I've become at 22 years old. I've learned to become the kind of man that's not afraid to take risks and face failure head on. Through painful rounds of golf and other experiences, I've learned that a man takes the time to check in on those important to him. And by taking the time to relax with my buddies and take a break from life, I've learned that a man values the friends that have helped him throughout his life. While many of your experiences may differ from mine, they all help us figure out what kind of men we would like to become. I'm forever grateful to have been here for the past 4 years, and will look back on great experiences with my brothers that helped me figure out the kind of man I would like to be. Thank you.